Okay people, this is video number 4, but this one is not about global threats to mankind. Now we're sort of stepping back a pace because this one is all about the UK. It's UK politics, but it's special. Right. I've made myself comfy. I've got a half a G&T sitting here and I'm on my fag, so I'm ready to roll. We have heard Mr. Cameron speak of the broken society in England, and he's quite right. It's broken, but it's broken a lot more than he knows. So let's just take a little snapshot in our minds. Let me paint you a picture. You fall down on the ice and you put your hand down to stop you falling. Oh dear, you've broken your arm. So you've got to go to hospital, and what do? They put a cast on it for about 6 to 8 weeks, then the cast comes off and the arm is no longer broken. So if we have a broken society, we need to put a cast on it, but certainly for a hell of a lot longer than 6 or 8 weeks, right? Because it'll take a lot longer for it to fix than that. Referee, I am so sick of this. I can't take a rollie from start to finish without having to relight once or even twice, but there you go. It is just a rollie. Don't smoke a skunk anymore. I haven't smoked that for years, 20-30 years more. I think I'd still like it, just don't get hold of it anymore, just don't move in those circles. But well. Anyway, back to society. Now, over many years, hundreds of them, there has been legislation and the law has been put before the courts, and some shyster defence lawyer has come up with a way to twist the law, and there has then been a legal decision, and bit by bit many of the laws that we have in society have been eroded from what they were intended to be to what they are now, and what they are now is a lot less effective than they should have been. The business of us going into Europe has done some of that as well. We have a law of human rights, fine, nothing wrong with that, until it comes to when people are in court and the defendant, the accused, will claim human rights all over the place. But you know, the aggrieved, the plaintiff, has got human rights, but for whatever reason the human rights that we afford to people are always afforded to the accused first. Maybe it should be the other way around. But how do we achieve this? Well, if you look at the history of Britain, some may say, just caught it, we're back in burn. Give me a minute. The glow says the flow is back. Yes, the social contract. This is about the affording of human rights in Europe. Very often the people in this country, the politicians, tell us that, we can't do anything about it. Europe says we've got to do this. And there's been a lot of that. I like to go to Bruges in Belgium. It's the most beautiful little town. And when I go there, I usually end up going for a blonde beer, a cup of coffee followed by a blonde beer in Jerry's Cigar Bar, which is just off Market Square. And Jerry, he sells tobacco and tobacco products. He sells pipes and he sells spirits, pipe tobacco. He's got it all. It's the most beautiful place. It's got a bar in there, so you can sit and have a blonde beer. And where blonde beer is anywhere between €3 and €4.5 for a glass, Jerry wants €2.5 for a glass, and it's the good stuff. It's Jupiter, which is locally brewed near to Bruges. But you buy a cup of coffee, and it's €2.5. The next nearest place, the cheapest next nearest place is €2.95. But in Jerry's, you get a good cup of coffee for €2.5, and it comes with a free shot. Usually amaretto. It's lovely. It's the place to go and spend some time, because right in the middle it's got a humidor. There's a long back bench. There's 5 tables and chairs around, and people can go in there and sit and have a blonde beer and a ciggy. Now, if we asked for a humidor in England, we'd be told, no, you can't do that, it's Europe. But forgive me, Belgium is the heart of Europe, so if they can do it, we can. The truth of the matter is, the politicians tell us what they want us to believe, not what the truth is, so that they can keep this country how they want it, not how we would like it to be. So, remember that in the context of what we're talking about. We have got many laws that have been eroded. Here we go, burn number 2. This bloody rolling back here is a bit damp. It's Golden Virginia, it does come a bit damp, but I love it. So, that's why my gas bill for lighters is bigger than my gas bill for the bloody flat. Anyway, what do we do about the erosion of our laws? What do we do about dishonesty, corruption? And what do we do to safeguard England? I am not talking racism. I'm talking about having come to this country in 1959 as a 10-year-old boy and learning what it was like to be in England instead of Canada. It was quite different, but it wasn't a bad place to live. Now, if you watched the video on population control, we were talking the various figures for fertility rate. Now, in countries in Europe like Turkey and England, where Muslim believing people have moved en masse, their fertility rate is 2.8. It's immense. And it means that if you look at Turkey now, the Muslim people are just about 50% of the population. If that grows anymore, there will be a political move to make Turkey another Muslim caliphate. In England, we could be moving that way because there's no control over it. We could be in a situation where 50 years from now, your granddaughter, who comes from a line of people that could trace the blood back 300 or 400 years to England, and you will be either Catholic or Protestant, but British law might compel your daughter to cover her head when she goes out in public. If that ever comes in, 20 years after that, the law of this country will be Sharia law. So what do we do about this? The problem we've got is, if you've watched the population trap, you'll realise that a fertility rate of 2.8 means the end of mankind at 15 billion people in about 100 years, not 160. So the people who are procreating their way towards a majority are basically speeding up the self-destruct button for the end of mankind, and they don't see this. All they see is their ideal, their belief, their pursuit of that belief. So we can end up by killing a lot of birds with one stone here. We don't like whistleblowers. Well, we do, but we let people at the NHS guide them into contract that they must sign, or else they're out without any money. And the contract they sign says that they will not divulge any information. Not nice. We're in the world of secrets and lies and sleaze and scam. Business these days is in sleaze and scam. In my day, you protected your company name, you protected your company logo, your company identity, you treat your clients with great respect because you wanted them to stay with you and not go to somebody else. These days, because of the way the world's turned, we have the world of sleaze and scam. In that, let's say we're talking about your energy supplier and they've got you signed up for a year. But they know at the end of the year you're going to go online and you're going to do a comparison and probably find somebody a bit cheaper and move. So the deal is, once they've got you signed up, the instruction to the employees is stiff them for everything you can get while we've got them, and after that, okay, so what? I actually have negotiated something with my energy supplier, and I've been with them many years because they don't do this to me. We came to an agreement that I would not make certain things known about them if we traded together fairly. And each year, about 3 weeks before my contract's done, I get a phone call from the same lady, and she sort of says, if you go on our site and you start looking for the cheapest, it'll tell you it's that one, but the one you want to go for is this one. It'll work out £20 cheaper over the year. If you leave it with me, don't do a thing, I'll just move you over when the day comes. And she does, and it works, and I love it. And it only happens because they understood through various discussions we had quite a few years ago that I could be very harmful to their business interests if they let me say my word on my website, which is Caustic Bites. Look at Caustic Bites and see how I treat those who don't treat us too well, and you understand why this particular company did not want to fall out with me. So enough said on that one. So this is where we go. We understand a lot of the problems in today's world. We've seen the politicians put their hand in our pockets. We see the bankers every year stealing a third of the profit and loss account, calling it bonus, whether they made a profit or made a loss. We've seen the NHS self-destruct. Witnessed the closing of heart surgery for children in Leeds and moving it to Newcastle. Absolutely incredible. Leeds is at the heart of a large populated area, North and South Yorkshire. Newcastle's miles away. But somebody somewhere in the NHS was on the end of a big payout if they actually moved heart surgery to Newcastle. At the moment, we don't know what the outcome's going to be. It's not finished yet. But it does seem that one of the main people has been thrown out. No longer works for the NHS. Thank God for that. The NHS, yeah, they've got big problems, but I'll tell you what, from personal experience, the care people are incredible and second to none. All the problems in the NHS come from the management structure, where the management are more concerned with the politics of feathering their own nest and protecting their little empire than being concerned with the day-to-day business of managing the hospitals correctly. And I've seen that from first-hand experience. I've been told at 8:30 in the morning, yes, you're okay, you can go home. I was then advised that by the time the medication they'd prescribed for me was going to get to me, it would be 2:30, 3:30 in the afternoon. That's known as bed blocking, because while ever I'm there, they can't put anybody else in my bed. This is because the prescription written for me could only be fulfilled by the hospital pharmacy. If you wanted to change that, a good management decision would be, if the person being prescribed medication is an inpatient and staying in, then it must be on a pharmacy, a hospital pharmacy prescription. If the person being discharged is being prescribed, that should be written on a prescription that could be filled either by the hospital pharmacy or any high street chemist. Under those conditions, him being discharged can go when he wants, because he can go downstairs to the pharmacy, give him the paper and say, here you go, fill me that. And it doesn't have to go through all the checks, it doesn't have to wait and go on the trolley, it doesn't have to wait while the trolley goes round every other ward before it gets to yours. And when the man walks out down to the pharmacy to get his prescription, his bed is free. That's a way to manage. The art of management is to make it happen. And that for me would work. So yeah, when we're talking about the NHS, we've got problems like that, which is costing all the money and causing all the problems. The management structure needs a complete and total overhaul, and anybody found not to conform or fit or be happy with the changes, well, it's time for them to take a pension, isn't it? But coming back to the social contract, the UK does not have a written constitution. Some will tell you that the Magna Carta is it. But this is many hundreds of years, in fact it's over 1,000 years since then. So maybe it's time to put an addenda onto it, or to write a new one. So we're going back to thinking about this plaster cast that we can wrap around society until society is healed. But this is a master class and a master chance to fix all with one piece of legislation. We call it the social contract, but enshrine within it, within the law, that this is the written constitution of our country, or it is an addenda to what is believed to be the written constitution, i.e. the Magna Carta. We can fix just about everything with this if it's written well. First of all, because it is a written constitution, or a part of, we enshrine within it that no subsequent government could ever repeal the constitution, and we can put it down that there must be a referendum of the people in which over 90% of the voters vote to have it changed or repealed. We can also further say that any part of it that is challenged by any person or any legislation that any future government wishes to pass has to be ratified by the people with an above 75% majority of the voters voting for the change. In that way, we make this the law of the land forevermore. Within it, we might say, this society is a society of the people, and because there are many different religions within the people, we must deem it that religion should never be a consideration in the legislative procedure of this country. What that means is that we use logic to make our laws, because religion is belief, not logic. We therefore outlaw procedure of using belief as a consideration when we draft our laws. We might also say that on a day-to-day basis, in the commission of your duties in your job, your first and foremost considerations are honesty and accuracy. And if you do not go for honesty and accuracy, you are in breach of the law. It's a criminal offence. So when you get your defence lawyer, he knows he's got to put a defence up for his client. But if he starts getting smart and twisting and turning things in the law, then under this law, he may be seen to have deviated from honesty and accuracy, and therefore he's prosecutable. When we look at all the police who are under investigation for dishonesty, they are under the protection of this law. Protection for us, not for them. It makes them liable to prosecution. Politicians, again, are in the frame if they are less than honest and less than accurate. Whistleblowers We love them. Once they've opened their mouth and become public, it's there for us all to shoot at. So if anybody can dispute what they say and prove that they're liars, they are in the frame. But if anybody tries to shut them up, then those doing that are in the frame. Just think about recent situations within the NHS where whistleblowers have been made to sign contracts before they get a payoff. And signing the contract means keeping their mouth shut. At just about every twist and turn, this law will make anybody being less than honest and accurate liable under the law. But we can take it further. We can say that anybody born in this country is born with membership of the social contract. But if they are convicted of committing a serious criminal offence, and we can list all offences that would apply, then it would be deemed that by their action they have voted themselves out of membership of the social contract. That means no dole, it means no free health treatment until they've served a 5-year term to reinstate themselves. It also applies to immigrants. All immigrants who want to come here and work here would have to have spent 5 years working, earning and paying taxes before their membership of the social contract became in force. That means that they couldn't come here and start drawing the dole. They couldn't come here and get free health treatment. They have to qualify. They have to show themselves to be a valid member of this society in Great Britain. They have to show themselves to be worthy citizens. And at that point, yes, we will give them the benefits. So when you run it like that, after a couple of years, you might find your crime figures have dropped half, 50%. Not by anything the police have done. Police are extremely corrupt and have almost brought our society to a complete fall. That I will deal with on another video coming very soon. The reason that crime rates would have fallen was because so many people would realise that if they get caught doing something, they've got no money coming in anymore and no health care. And I think a lot of criminals, or people who do criminal acts, particularly opportunist crime, when something just happens, it's like, oh yeah, I'll get away with that. They won't do it. There's more to lose now. It isn't, oh, I've got no to lose, I might as well do this. It's like, oh my God, 5 years with no money and no health care. No, I'm not doing it. Okay, there's your crime figures down. Your books on benefits. Well, if you knock a hell of a lot of people out of benefit because they've transgressed against the social contract, there's a lot of money not going out that would have been going out. You could also say that it is an offence against this act to aid and abet somebody who has been disqualified through their criminal activity. We have to think here about a guy who's is an out and out louch, he's a psycho and a thug, but he's married with a couple of kids. So if he gets disqualified, he's going to be taking his wife's money. But if it's illegal for her to help him, and one of the threats is that she's seen to be an unfit mother, so the kids get taken away, she ain't going to help him, even as scared as she is of him. It's basically a move that will isolate those who need isolation because of the kind of people they are and what they do and how they don't care about others, even the closest, nearest and dearest. There are people like that. This is a way to make it a lot easier to get at them and deal with them. The social contract, as a part of a written constitution and enshrined against violation by the need for referendums, actually gives a hell of a lot of power back to the people of the country, power that successive parliaments have taken away from them. people are conned into thinking, oh, we've got the vote, it's a democracy. This is no democracy, it's a shamocracy. You can have any Prime Minister you want, so long as he leads the Labour Party or the Conservative Party. You can't have anybody else. It's historical, it goes back to when Cromwell ceded power to the Whigs and the Tories. Whigs being the founders of the Liberal movement and the Tories being the Tories. And they were told that they had to give people a vote. But back in the 1680s, there was no TV, no radio. There was no way to broadcast a message. And the Tories and the Whigs got together and they said, this is a nightmare. It means that without any knowledge of the people, anybody could be elected to run this country. Anybody. So we have to devise a way that that can't happen. So they came up with the constituencies, and the way they made them out, it was that many constituencies were only ever going to be Tory, and many were only ever going to be Whig. Therefore a third party had got no way in. And it's still the same. If you look at it, there are safe seats. If you look at Rotherham, it's anywhere between 14 and 20,000 in favour of Labour. Anybody who thinks they're going to vote Conservative and make a difference living in Rotherham, they just stay in bed. Cloth caps will rule. What the Whigs and the Tories said at the time, it's one thing giving the people the vote, but we can't give them the brains to know what to do with it. Well, that might have applied in 1680, odd. Doesn't apply now. With modern communications and the means to get your message across to people, most people have got half an idea of what they are or aren't voting for. We in the UK need to reconsider the constituencies. We need to find a better way of doing things. But it needs to be open, and it can never be that because the politicians love it the way it is. Conservatives don't want to change, and Labour don't want to change. All the others underneath definitely want to change. But when we had the referendum on voting, Mr Cameron's sham referendum, you had the AV or stay as you are. They didn't give us proportional representation. Now that is giving power to the voter, PR. But when that's underwritten by the need for a referendum, if you're going to go up against anything that's in the written constitution, that really does say whatever the politicians want to do, if it's anything a bit naughty, the people have to say, yeah, that's okay, we'll have it. And it's highly unlikely they'll get that. So yeah, there's so much that needs to be done for this country, so much we have to do, and the social contract would probably do it. The social contract would mean that even if the vast majority of the people living in this country were immigrants or family of immigrants, all of them Muslim believers, there's no way they could turn this country into a caliphate. England would still always be England because the legislation to guarantee it would have been put in place. It would be a brave government that did it because there are many, many hurdles to face, and this would be a large-scale piece of legislation. It would need at every single piece of it to be thought through. And at the very end of it, we would have to list every law in the land that is still an active law that this would apply to, and that would combine criminal law and civil law. But if we did it, we would be putting everybody in the country on notice that if you are not honest and accurate in the way you live your life, you run the risk of being prosecuted. And I do believe that the standards of how we treat one another would rise. Because I've watched since 1959, I've watched them fall year on year on year. And to see them rise, hopefully, to a higher level than when I first saw them, it would be wonderful to see standards like that applying once more in this country. We could do so much with such a law. So, hey, Mr. Cameron, watch this video, listen, learn, talk to me if you want, go on Caustic Bites, fill in the feedback. I'll reply your email, promise you I will. And hey, just when it comes to Cybername, put Cameron D at gov.uk. I'm not sure, but I'll give you my word. Something has to be done, and it's now, not later. And whilst you might be doing all that you need to do to prepare for the next election, I think that would be a close run thing. I don't believe for a minute that Mr. Miliband is our next Prime Minister. I don't think he got it in him. And I do believe that most of the left-wing voters would be scared to death to have Ed Balls as the Chancellor. I do believe they will see George Osborne to be a winner, because all that's happened since he's been Chancellor has gone the right way. You're a weaker link, Mr. Cameron. We've seen you renege on every promise you made. We've seen you back your friends as opposed to doing the right thing, as with the inquiry into the press, where it was said that legislation should underpin changes, and you went totally against that. But hey, in going totally against it, you kept yourself on the dinner list, didn't you? I don't believe you'll have missed out on any dinners at all. But wait, this is today, not 400 years ago. We can look on the TV, we can look on social media, and we can see what people are saying and what people think. If you look on my site, it cuts right through the crap and goes straight to the bottom line. Honesty, accuracy, and no punches pulled. You read what I've written about you. You'll see yourself as others see you. But whatever we do, we must, in the very near future, press ahead with the initiation of the research that will lead to the writing of the social contract. We need it badly. Thank you for watching. The next video will probably be on the police. There is much to say there, much you won't like, and maybe a surprise beautiful ending. Stay with me, folks. I'll be back. Oh no, that's Arnie Schwarzenegger. I shall return. See you later.